Here we are, one of the most dreaded weeks for Viking fans. Who stays, who goes, and the man with some insight on where this franchise needs to go, none other than Pete Bercich joins us now. And Pete, Viking fans very nervous about the future of their quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Do you sense this coming to a head and the Vikings retaining his services? How much does Baker Mayfield's 3-year, $100 million deal factor into this?
It all factors in, right? And for Baker Mayfield to, kind of set the bar. I mean, Cousins is obviously he's gonna want more than Mayfield. He's gonna want more because of the production numbers. The question is, how does the injury come in? And then the other part of it, I think, too, is there a couple key things. I think one is the guaranteed money for Kirk, because I think that's going to be important for him. That could be a sticking point, right? Take less overall, more guaranteed. And then I think on the Vikings side, it's just the recovery from injury. He's 35, going to be 36. Tore the Achilles. You're more likely to tear the other one if you've torn one. A lot of question marks on that end as well. So it's not easy. And then, I don't want to jump into the draft situation, but this is a very, very unique year when it comes to the quarterback position, meaning there are quite a few quarterbacks who, might be quarterbacks or franchise quarterbacks of the future. So, what does that mean for the organization as far as going into the draft and the ability to, you have the best ability to get somebody that you may want for the future this year than you've had in quite some time.
All right. Why has this taken so long with Kirk? Both teams, both sides know what they want. Why have they not hammered this out? Why is this going right to the brink?
Well, it's like when you every year when you renegotiate your multi-million-dollar deal with Fox, you have a number and then Fox has a number. So I'm sure that's exactly what's going on here, that the Vikings have a number and, Cousins has a number. And then you have, again, it's not just a matter of agreeing to terms. There's also the question of the injury as well, right? And that's something it's a proverbial fly in the ointment. So I think there's just a lot more to hash through. The Vikings do have to make a decision pretty quickly because I think it's Wednesday, another $28 million will hit the salary cap for 2024 if Kirk Cousins is not extended. So that's another big factor in all of this, and that the fact that the Vikings can spread that dead cap money out, that it may that savings alone right there may make the re-signing him more palatable.
Do you think term of deal has anything to do with this? Because Kirk said that he wanted to retire as a Viking. So do you think maybe more than money, he's looking for 3 years, 4 years versus just 2?
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where he wants to continue to play today, but the question is, are you sure he wants to play until he's 40? I mean, he obviously can change his mind if if he wanted to. Yeah, I mean, length of contract it's always part of it, and sometimes it's just the image of it. They want me for the next 4 years. And you have to sit back as an organization and say, is he the guy that we want for the next 4 years? Is he the guy that we think could take us to the promised land, draft on defense, throw some money at the defense, try to fix other parts and let Kirk, maintain the helm? I think that plan is all part of it. And, for Cousins to want that long-term stability, I don't know. I mean, free agency and his contract coming up every couple of years has helped him quite a bit over the last, 10 years or so. So, I don't think he would. I don't think it's an affront or a slap in the face at all. It's about what works for the organization.
All right, you were at the Combine. You heard both Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell talk about their love of Kirk Cousins and how much they really want him back. If they really wanted him back, they could put that cash on the table. Is this them saving face with the fan base that does want Cousins back, saying all the right things, but when it comes to the negotiation and the check they put on the table, they go, this is all we got, and if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else?
Well, and that's kind of I think that's a very good point, is to have that proverbial line in the sand and say, this is as far as we're willing to go, from a contract standpoint. And, of course, what they say at the combine and all those things, it's all, I think what was important from what was said was just the whole thing about like Justin Jefferson and trading him, and how it's an absurdity. And I think even the reason that popped up was that, nothing was said. People floated it out there out of, from we don't know where. But they put an end to that and said, no, that's not going to happen. And so, again, whether or not they want to go to somebody new, we have to understand this and remember this. We are in a quarterback-heavy offense. Our offense is very, very dependent on the quarterback and his ability to do things. We're not heavily dependent on a running game. We're not heavily dependent on let's say the atmosphere Christian Ponder had when he came here. A great defense, great running game. Just make certain throws, and we could win some football games.
Right.
We're heavy, and it's a quarterback poor league, right? And so that puts them in a bit of a bind and trying to find someone to lead this team. And Cousins is obviously, the easiest plug and play, right? He's the easiest. He's the fit. He already knows the system. Kevin O'Connell spent a lot of the season trying to make guys ready, and that's no fun at all as a head coach or a coordinator or whomever, week in and week out, just trying to hurry guys up and get them ready. I mean, that's makes for a long, long season. I'm sure they'd prefer to not do that. And the question then for Cousins is, again, where does that line sit? And that's where all the conversations have to be had and say, we're not gonna doom the rest of the franchise just because we want this one quarterback. But I just want the fans to remember that whoever takes snaps from center is the absolute most important piece of this Vikings team because of our offense, because of how we operate. And, I'll say this on the flip side, if you were going to draft a quarterback, this is the time to do it, right? This is the guy to do it. You have your head coach. He's a former NFL quarterback. He's an offensive guy. He knows how to coach the position. He should be able to, he knows how to scout the position and evaluate the position. This might be the perfect, the perfect set of circumstances for this franchise to really go find somebody. And then again, it comes down to the price tag. How much you're willing to trade in the draft to get up to where you need to be to get the guy that you want. I mean, that's why they pay, you and the people in the front office with the Vikings a lot of money.
No, you're the one in the lavish estate there. There's ping pong, there's basketball behind you, there's a TV that goes from here to Joliet on the back wall. I mean, you got it all going on there.
Yeah, no, this is I'm in the bunker. That's where I spend my off season, in the bunker. No windows, a little bit of oxygen,
and
bunkered up.
Film study. Yeah, that's all it is.
Exactly.
Film study.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Exactly. So if you had to make a prediction as for what you would feel would be best for the organization. So this is your opinion, not what they should do, but what you feel from the knowledge you've gained watching this team for decades. Where should they go? Like you said, this is maybe that one window where you could go grab a quarterback and let Kirk walk away. He's still a good fit, but he's not going to be a fit 4 or 5 years down the road. Whereas if you grab the right guy now, you could be set up for quite some time.
Well, that's the question, and I think it's a matter of how do you want to take the Band-Aid off slowly, or do you want to rip it off? Because in that respect, you can work to sign Kirk Cousins, and if you can and get a deal that you want, you get him. But then you can still look at this draft and saying, we could draft the quarterback that we think that we like for the future. Maybe a guy like Bo Nix, someone like that who may develop into a good quarterback. Let him sit and learn from an experienced quarterback. And then, it's going to mess you up in the draft, right? You're not going to get, it's going to put you in a hole because you might be losing both of your outside linebackers. You have a middle linebacker that you have to replace. You've got a lot of spots that you need to fill. And so there might be that dip right there in the near term. But if you have the opportunity, again, if you have the opportunity to shore up the most important position in all of sports for, the long term, talking about 5-6 years down the road, I think you have to take advantage of it and do what you need to do. So coming out of this, the free agency and the draft, we might have 2 quarterbacks on our roster. We need 2 quarterbacks, right? Who's our backup? We don't even know. So, that could possibly happen. And if it does, I can't sit here. I'm not going to sit here and say that this is the way that they have to go, right? That we're evaluating all 6 of these quarterbacks going in the draft, and we need Kirk and we need this guy, and we're going to go forward. That you have to, we're not going deep enough in the weeds to be able to make that answer, make that the judgment. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying it's possible that we come out of this with a rookie quarterback, with a good veteran quarterback, that position shorn up, and we got to figure out the rest of it as we go.
All right. I counted up what the Vikings have right now. They have 22 pending free agents. 22. That's like half the roster is going to walk out the door. I mean, doesn't that make you a little nervous? Shouldn't somebody start to panic with that many bodies that could walk out as early as Wednesday?
Yeah, you can. And I think there's, I've read some stuff on just looking at free agency period and just how different teams attack it, and how, for example, the Houston Texans, they haven't signed any huge free agent contracts per se, but they brought in a lot of the middle term, type or mid-price type players. I think defensively, with the defensive line, you can get by without having to pay people a ton of money. You do need 2 very good outside linebackers, no question. There are a lot of spots. There are a lot of spots that need to be filled. And again, you could fill all those spots, not have Cousins, maybe, perhaps, and then roll the dice on the draft and get the QB. And if that's the case, if they feel like they can do that, then that line in the sand with Cousins is going to be a little bit lower, right? And maybe that's the case. That's why it's dragging on so long. So if that's the route that they want to go, because they have all these other pieces that they have to fill, and they're going to say, you know what, Kirk, this is what we can do. And, if you can't do it, then we're going to go about tearing the Band-Aid off quickly and start replacing some of these spots.
All right, lastly, before we let you go, Danielle Hunter. Nobody is talking about this because Cousins is grabbing all the headlines, but he's almost as vital a piece to that defense as Cousins is to the offense.
All right, and he's going to be asking for Chris Jones type money. Guy from Kansas City just got $95 million guaranteed. Whether or not,
do you think they do
anybody? I don't know.
You think the Vikings do that?
I think they have to take a look and evaluate whether or not they're going to get 2023 production or 2022 production. Some of that I think has to do with scheme and system under Brian Flores. But you have to understand how motivated that Danielle Hunter was in 2023, because he knew that this free agent date was coming down the road. He was healthy. So yeah, it's going to cost a lot to keep him around. I'm just worried about, I worry about teams like Chicago. Chicago has the Bears have a ton of cap space. They need they'd love to, partner him with with their other outside or defensive end. Having Danielle go back to playing defensive end again. He might get plucked, and that's a big concern.
All right. I thought of one more here. Back to Kirk for 20 seconds. If the money is equal, which do you think he would take? Atlanta or staying here?
Oh, I think he would stay here. No question. I think he would stay here at a little bit of a discount just because you know who you have, you know the facilities, you know the coach, you know the system. You have the best wide receiver in the league. You go down to Atlanta, there's like I said, a lot of question marks. So there is a value to that. So I think that if all things being equal, even I think he would take even I would say he would be, I think, willing to take a discount to stay here in Minnesota. Not because of you, Jim. Not because you're here, but because of all those other things.
Well, his neighbor shovels. Maybe I can mow the lawn for him in the off season. I could take care of the place that way.
This isn't Green Bay. We don't have to do that to keep people around.
All right. Pete Bercich, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
All right, Jim. Thank you.
And we'll be calling you.
It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Let's just let this thing roll and see what happens.
Oh, God. It's not fun. It's stressful.
Nah, the games are going to be played. It's not going to cancel the season. Not what you're going to be stressed about.
All right. Pete Bercich, Vikings analyst, all season long, joining us throughout the year and, of course, on the games on the Vikings Radio Network. Thank you, Pete.